It's already 1 day since we collect our sample from palm oil mill, and yesterday you can see there are a lot of PPF sample on this canvas, but now they are just a little bit. So let's do some conclusion. So this is PPF or mesocarp fiber, and this is our small dryer. Okay, and we also have EFB empty fruit bunch over there, but later we see lah. So we have tried to dry this stuff using the fan. You can see the fan over there. So we lay out all our sample on this canvas and try to sort of like make as thin as possible surface the what you call the layer lah, so that the surface area will be exposed better. So we sort of like we use the fan, we also use the dryer, and also we do the sun drying. So we can conclude that you can dry a lot of sample this EFB and PPF if you do this batch method lah. You put and then you you replace, put again, replace, even though you have just a small dryer, because it's due to this fiber itself. The nature of the fiber itself is thin. The EFB have a little bit thicker fiber, but still it's not as thick as you work with the durian skin or cocoa pod shell or crown pineapple leaf. So this is just a thin fiber. So when when it's thin, it's also loose. So when you try to dry this thing, what will happen is that the air, the hot air can go penetrate easily. So that cause this to dry much faster compared to durian skin or whatever have a thick thick skin lah. And also you can dry this at higher temperature. So we dry this at 75 degrees Celsius because it will not affect the entire thing. That's one thing. And also because the fiber is thin, so if you do like high heat, it doesn't really matter, because the high heat will sort of like dry everything from the surface and also inside the bulk. But if you have something thick like what you call durian skin, you cannot use the high temperature, because you will cause the outer layer, outer skin to become hardened first, and then the inner part will not get the heat because due to the hardening of the first layer. So that's why when you have a durian skin or cocoa pod, you need to dry it at low temperature, maybe 65 degrees Celsius, and longer, maybe 2 days. Only then you can get a fully dry sample. But for this, you can you can just put like 75 degrees Celsius, it's okay. But we try to to not use more than 80 or 85 degrees Celsius, because we afraid that it can self-combust or ignite. So we just do at 75 is good enough. So we found that 75 degrees Celsius, let me open this. Okay, let me open this thing. 75 degrees Celsius for 2 hours is enough to sort of like to dry everything here. Okay, so this is how we put our PPF, or maybe also later on we put also EFB here. The condition of how we put in this dryer is like this, whether it's PPF or EFB. So as you can see here, we sort of like make quite a big gap here, because we want to allow some heat to circulate on top of here and on the bottom here. So this this layer here can get even heat distribution on top and also on the bottom here. So that's the reason. And also this thing, we sort of like put it quite loose. Okay, we put it quite loose like that. Okay, we don't try to compress, or we don't try to sort of like compact this thing. I mean, because when you do compact the sample, the density will become higher, and then the heat might have a hard time to penetrate through this fiber lah. So that's why this is good enough lah. And this the entire dryer here, they are 20. This dryer is basically can accommodate 20 of this, so it's 20 layer. But we use half of it, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we use half of it, because as we mentioned before, we want extra room for the heat to circulate. So this 10 layer of EFB, this mash, okay, this mash for this layer, it can sort of like fill up this entire basin here. Aside from sun drying, we also dry our EFB sample using our small dryer here. EFB sample, as we mentioned before, has thicker and bigger fiber compared to the PPF or mesocarp fiber. Due to that, you cannot really compact this EFB as much as PPF. Here is example of our dried PPF, and here is our dried EFB. As you can see here, the finer fiber allow this sample to be compacted more compared to this EFB. You can see this fiber, even though you compact it, it will sort of like expand again. So this has its own consequence when you lay out in this dryer. As you can see, you cannot really sort of like make the compact layer like our PPF before. So meaning that in order to dry the EFB, you need to do it a lot more batch lah. So that's one thing you need to consider when drying the EFB inside the indoor dryer. For EFB, the best way, what we found is that you take it out under the sun and let it dry in bulk. That's much more easier lah. But sometimes the weather is not on your side, so you need to use this dryer. So now we will finish up our EFB. One thing about the EFB is that when you take the shredded EFB in the mill, sometimes some of them is not fully shredded lah, like this. So you can see this is like the whole bunch of like unshredded EFB empty fruit bunch. Okay, normally the shredded one is like this. Okay, so the consequence of this is that you will have more difficulty to crush in crusher later on. Okay, compare this with the PPF, palm press fiber or mesocarp fiber, which come with more consistent size, more consistent texture. So this one is easier to crush in our crusher. But this, you need to be careful because this thing can make the blade stuck. Okay, so if you have something like this later on when you dry this thing, maybe you can cut it into half or smaller piece so that the blade will have much easier time lah to crush this stuff. Okay, so that's one of the precaution which make the EFB is much harder, not harder but trickier lah. I can say it's trickier to crush into the smaller fiber compare to PPF. So you need to be patient with when you crush the EFB. We do have two big dryer in our lab, but then we don't use this to dry our EFB and also our PPF because even though this dryer is big, the volume is large, but then the heater is small here. There are one heater here and only another heater here. There are only two heater for this entire volume. In addition to that, we use, when we try to dry our EFB and also PPF sample before, we lay on this, what we call, on this tray. So when you lay like that, what will happen, this thing, this hole will be closed. Okay, and if you have another layer of sample here and sample there until the bottom, so the hot air will sort of like block by the first layer, and then the hot air cannot go to the second layer. So meaning that only the first layer will be dry, and then the second layer will receive less, and the third layer will receive even less heat. So what will happen, the top layer will be dry, and the second, third, fourth, and the bottom one will not even dry. And to make this worse, this dryer comes with this silicone sealing, the door itself. So when you close these two doors, what you get is basically the tight enclosure of this dryer. Even though this dryer comes with the hole here, so you can see the hole on top here, so where the water evaporated, as we mentioned before, because the heat cannot go to the second layer, whatever on the second layer will sort of like will not receive a lot of heat. So the condition is warm. Okay, it's not hot but it's warm. So there are moisture in the sample, cannot go out, here because they are blocked by this first layer. So there are moisture, and also the condition is quite warm, because previously we do this, we put our PPF and our EFB sample in this dryer. We put open layer there. What we found that after 1 day of 70, we set to 70 lah. Last time we set to 70 Celsius, and then we left it for 1 day. The next day we come, what happened is that the top layer is dry. Okay, but even that, if we try to turn around the top layer, the bottom of this tray still a little bit wet lah. But the worst happen when you go to the second, third, fourth, and the bottom one. All of this layer, the sample is already colonized by the what we call the orange fungus. Let's talk about this orangey stuff here on our EFB. You can also find this orangey stuff on PPF if, let's say, you left your sample EFB or PPF in moist and warm environment. So this is indication of fungus. This is Neurospora crassa. Is what we call, it's common in palm oil waste like EFB and PPF. It's a fast growing, meaning that the spore can sort of like what we call easily settle on exposed fiber. But this thing is not harmful because it doesn't release what we call dangerous mycotoxin. It's act as a natural decomposer. It's breaking down the cellulose and hemicellulose inside this fiber lah. But if let's say you want to use this what we call, use this EFB for mycelium composite, then it might become a problem because it will compete with your strain lah. Let's say you use a Ganoderma or oyster mycelium to grow to make a mycelium composite, then this that thing will compete with this. Okay. So it can also consume nutrient before what we call, before your mycelium, the desired mycelium, colonize your substrate. And also it can also change the texture of this EFB or this fiber lah, making it a bit weaker. So to manage this stuff, basically you can sort of like, if let's say you get this sample wet and then like this sample, you can basically sterilize this thing and then it will die anyway. But the best way, I mean the good way to prevent this from happening from the start is that you need to dry it when you receive this what we call the EFB or PPF. That's why we dry our sample early on after we collect it. You need to dry it so that the moisture content is around 15 to 20% like that, to what we call to prevent this Neurospora crassa from colonize your thing lah. So that's basically it. Okay, so you can see this thing is grow on our this thick what we call thick EFB, because when it's thick, then there are some water here, and we not yet dry this stuff. That's why you can see this orangey. Okay, so this also orangey thingy. Okay, so this fungus. So this fungus. So this fungus, Neurospora crassa. So the name for that fungus, the orange bright thing. Okay, so what to do if you have this thing? I mean, yes, we try to dry our stuff as soon as possible, but then we need to wait. As you see before, we need to wait our dryer take turn. And then let's say most of your sample got like this. Do you throw it? I mean, if you want to throw it, then it's fine. But you still can use it, because if you try to dry this thing, it will hog the... I mean, you can dry this thing, and then when you want to use it for whatever reason, then you will sterilize it anyway. I mean that if you want to do mycelium composite, or you want to grow the, what I call, to use this as a substrate, EFB as a substrate for the mushroom cultivation, then you will sterilize this stuff anyway, so that during the sterilization you will kill this thing anyway. So yeah, that's no problem. But not all people have a sterilizer. That's why if you don't have that access to autoclave or whatever, the best thing you can do is that when you collect the stuff, you dry it as soon as possible. Okay, so we have a lot of stuff there, so we can just throw this away, and because we have saved a lot of things, but we can just throw it away. But if we want to use it, then we can still dry it, and then it doesn't really matter for us, because after all, we'll sterilize this anyway. But as I mentioned before, having this will somehow, where is the thing? Okay, having this Neurospora, having this Neurospora crassa, the fungus, it will eat up our fiber. So it will weaken the fiber itself. So if let's say you want to do something like a composite, you want something strong, so that might be a problem lah for you. But if you want just to use it as a substrate for mushroom or whatever, then it's fine, because you don't really need the strength for that. And this also, one of the positive thing about this is that if you want to pre-treat this, EFB or PPF, this Neurospora crassa will break down the lignin and hemicellulose. So in one way, it's also good also lah, if depending on your application. But for our application, it doesn't really matter, because we will sterilize it anyway. Just we don't like this orangey thingy, because we don't want the spore to sort of like settle in our lab and so on and contaminate our thing. Yeah, so in our case, it doesn't really matter, but now we just throw it away. One more thing about storing this dry sample into this transparent plastic bag before you crush it is that when you take from the dryer, this thing is quite warm. Okay, it's quite warm, especially when you put in this basin and then you pile it up. The bottom one is still quite warm. So it's very important when you put inside this plastic bag, when you try to sort of like knot it with this nylon tie. This nylon tie is basically is reversible, mean that you can open it back like this lah. So it must is more convenient lah. You can use and reuse it. So one thing to take note is that because there are some heat there, some heat inside this. If you tie this thing very tightly, what will happen? The heat sort of like will stay inside, and that's make this thing sort of like is like suffocated. So it will sort of like some of the moisture will not coming out. Okay, will not coming out, and you end up some some moist environment inside later on. Even though you put this silica gel will help in absorbing the moisture, but if the moisture within this the inside that is heated, it's like a compost. You have something that is dry outside, but then the inner one, maybe there are some heat cannot escape. Later on, it will sort of like equilibrate with the environment, and when that happen, if the heat cannot go out, it will sort of like condense inside here lah. So that's why when you do this thing, when you take straight from the oven, you put inside this thing. Normally when I take from the oven, I put in this basin first and let it equilibrate in the room temperature first. Even I do that for like 5 minutes, if I go inside there, it's quite warm. So that's why when I put inside this plastic, when I done with this putting the silica gel, and for tying it with this knot, I will not tie it very tightly. Okay, very tightly. I mean, there must be some opening lah, some opening. It's not big enough, but good enough for the hot air to evaporate, not evaporate, but coming out before it's fully equilibrate with the room temperature. So that is another thing lah. So after like 1 or 2 days, you can just tighten it up to the full. But when you take from the hot sample, it's better for you not to tie it first. Just tie halfway like that, and then let it equilibrate, the temperature equilibrate for at least overnight, and then the next day you tie it tightly lah for the storage. I mean, before the crushing. Before we forget, we also dry our fresh fruit bunch inside this bigger dryer, and we only put on the top, as we mentioned before, only the heating element for this big dryer only on the top. So for this FFB, we dry it for a longer time, maybe 2-3 days. Because why? Because this is thick. We dry before in our small dryer for like 1 day, and then we put out. We found that after we put inside the container, the day later there are some condensate there because the water inside is trapped. So we will left this FFB inside this dryer for longer time lah, so that most of the water will coming out lah. Although we're not really sure because this is like a closed thing, so whether the water can come out or not, I'm not really sure. We're not really sure, but we try. But the disadvantage of this is that you will not get like a bright orange color anyway lah now, because the bright orange color is when it's fresh lah, or with the water, oil and so on. But when you dry this thing, you need to expect the color get paler lah, get fader and fader. Okay, because the reason why we dry this thing is to exhibit this, to show to people what is FFB and so on. Okay, so we left this thing for about 2-3 days inside the dryer. Okay, so we're done with all the drying of our sample PPF and also EFB. So let's do some conclusion. So this is the tray that we use during our drying inside our small dryer. So basically we only use 10 of this, even though we have like 20 of the crack lah. So we have 20 of this, but we only use 10 of this tray. So meaning that each of the drying we we separate by 2 slot. So like this. Okay. So like do 2 slot. So we put our sample here. Okay, before we show you our finished product, dried product, some safety precaution here. Remember, we dry our EFB and PPF, which is quite fine in structure. It's a fibrous, and in this dryer you see there are like a big heater here. Okay, regardless what temperature you set with this dryer, let's say you set 30 or you set 80, this heater will go full blast. Okay, and then let's say you set on 30. The moment you set 30, this heater will start to heat at its maximum capacity, and then when it reach 30, then when the entire entire dryer here reach 30, this thing will stop heating, and then it's happen again and again. So regardless whether you put a low heat or high heat, this heater here will operate at maximum temperature. So this can be dangerous if, let's say, you have something like small like this, because this thing can go there and you basically can see, if let's say you blow the air here, you will see that when this stuck to the heater there will be like the red burn lah there. So we don't want that to happen because there are like fire hazard lah. So when you try to put your sample, fibrous sample here, make sure you don't like push everything so that it goes to the to this heater element. Okay, because small spark, of course this thing they ignite at high temperature, but then the spark, the bara tu, they can sort of like create a fire lah. So be careful about that. So make sure when you push everything inside this heater, make sure your fiber doesn't reach to the end lah. Okay, so that's one thing. And also after you done your stuff, this become become messy, and some of your sample will go inside. Remember, there are like a fan here, and when you close this thing, some of the small particle here will circulate inside this and go inside this thing lah. So you need to be ready with this thing, the blower, and just blow the thing like that. Okay, just blow like that when you want to clean the stuff lah. So that's one thing about the heater. So all in all, for our sample, this our finished sample, So we got here, so this is EFB. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 plastic bag of this what we call of EFB, dry EFB, and this our PPF. Okay, we only have 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, even though we collect 3 plastic bag. Okay, we go, if you remember before, when we take from the mill, we take in this bigger plastic bag, garbage plastic bag, we take 3 of EFB and 3 also for PPF. The reason being now why there are 8 and there are 4 here, because first this plastic bag is smaller than that black plastic bag. Another thing why there are more EFB, there are more than what we call PPF, because PPF is much denser. We do what we call, we do weight all this thing, all individual. So that's why you can see here, we label the thing. So PPF 5.6 kilogram is around 6 kilogram for this alone. But if you compare with this EFB, the full one, so here is around 2.6 kilogram. This one is 3 kilogram. So basically, EFB, they are more, they are have big fiber, meaning that when you try to compress it, it easily expand again lah. So that's why the density for EFB, as for now, is higher than the density for PPF, because PPF itself have finer fiber lah. I mean, when we talk about the density as a whole, okay, not the density of the fiber itself, but the density as a whole. The finer fiber can go inside. So that's why you can compact it more. So the way how we weigh it is just use a weighing balance and put a big basin there and put our sample inside this lah. For example, this one, just take this 6 kilo, and then you just put on that thing, and then you measure this thing lah. So this is 5.9 kilograms. So we already measured it before. So that's why you can see there 5.9 kilogram, around 6 kilogram lah. So this is the summary. So we collect 3 bag black garbage plastic bag, the big one, 3 bag of PPF, 3 bag of EFB. When you dry, you put into transparent plastic bag. This is transparent plastic bag, and this transparent plastic bag have the dimension of 24 inch times 36 inch like that. So do I have, yeah, this is the example of the thing. Okay, so this is how big is our plastic bag. The reason why we use transparent plastic bag for our medium before our crush, because we can see whether it's contaminant or not, like, easily. Okay, so this is our plastic bag to store our dry sample temporarily before we crush it, 24 times 36 inch. So PPF, so this is the tally. So we have only 4 bags, so it's 20.4 kilogram total. For EFB, we have 8 bags. So when we calculate, add together, is 24.1 kilogram. So roughly you get the same lah, around 20 plus kilogram of sample. Okay, so for this, from this we will turn it into when we crush it, we turn it into small fiber. So let me see whether we have it. Okay, so this example of our crushed fiber before. So this is EFB. So as you can see, when you crush it, you will get like a smaller, finer fiber lah. Maybe around how much is? Maybe less than 2 cm like that. 2 cm, 1 cm to 2 cm like that, or 3 cm. So roughly like that lah. So it's consistent in nature lah, in terms of fiber size, more or less 2 to 3 cm in size. So this what happen when we crush later on. Okay, so this thing, how heavy is this? Let me check first. So we can do it easily. So we can just take it out, this our PPF here, and then we already tear this thing, and then we put our sample there. So it's around 2.5 kilograms. So let's say this is what I call, this plastic is around half kilogram. So whatever inside this is around 2 kilogram. It's around 2 kilogram EFB lah. So meaning that one of this, the entire plastic here can fill up one of this 10 liter or 12 liters Tupperware lah. So that's why we have like a big what we call this 28 liters. We also have 36 liters and so on. Okay, so we can store a bulk of our sample. Okay, so now it's time for us to what I call to clean everything. So it's a mess now, but at least we can finish it off. We collect our sample on what I call on Wednesday. We finish everything, all the drying. Remember, 2 of our EFB here, let's say these two EFB here, they dried under the sun, but the rest of EFB here, 6 of this rest of EFB is dried under the this what you call this dryer, batch by batch lah, and all our PPF is dried under this dryer. So in terms of timing, if you can fill up this dryer, the drying only can be done minimum around 2.5 or 3 hours. Okay, 3 hours, and then you can change into the new one, and then you repeat again. So we collect everything on Wednesday. So now is Saturday. So Wednesday we collect, and then we do at night, and then you have like 1, 2, 3, only 3 days. Okay, only 3 days we can dry everything. Okay, but the caveat is that you need to do it batch by batch lah, meaning that you need to come every 3 hours, except for the night lah. Every 3 hours you come, and then you change, you replace the new one, and then you repeat again until you finish every sample. Okay, so for the future reference, if we take like around 20 kilo of EFB, 20 kilo of PPF, then you know that we can finish the drying, the critical part, around 3 days only. So that's the fastest we can do lah. Okay, because our dryer is just a small dryer, and with the help of the sun drying, only 1 times we do it, but we do it for these 2 only. So all in all, it takes about 3 days only, because drying is very critical. We don't want to this Neurospora crassa to what we call to the fungus to take over this thing. Okay, so I think that's it for drying process. After this, we will crush this stuff. So crushing, maybe 1 bag of this will maybe take like 1 hour or maybe 2 hours like that. So EFB, we have EFB, we have the PPF. The PPF is easier to crush than this, because EFB have sometimes they are very what we call very big the thing, so you need to cut a little bit. Okay, so EFB maybe take around, for this 1 bag, maybe take around like 2 hours crushing, if let's say there are no what we call no stuck, there are no stuck in the blade. Okay, 2 hours, because why 2 hours, why they are long time, because you need to put it slowly, bit by bit, because if you chuck into the crusher in one go, then it will stuck, the blade will stuck lah. Okay, for this maybe 1 bag here we can finish in 1 hour or 1 hour and a half, more or less like that. Okay, so yeah, so for the crushing part, we already have the video about this, so you can check our channel, the crushing part. And for now, that's it for drying, the critical part of treating your sample before you do anything. So this drying part, and now it's time for clean up. Bye.